Patient.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Caffeinated Jiu Jitsu. I am your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, Joe Motes, and I am super excited for today's guest episode. Today, we're going to be talking about something that every Jiu Jitsu practitioner and grappler runs into at some point, whether they realize it or not. And that's the difference in developing a game and becoming trapped by that game. It's something I've struggled with myself. At first, our game feels like progress, and we really have positions that we trust, but over time, it can become our worst enemy. So today, my guest, Dr. Colin Smith, and I are going to unpack this topic. I'm excited to have Colin on. First time we've had a doctor on. That's kind of cool. And I have a physician in the house, especially if we're having back troubles. Colin is a chiropractor. He is a former D1 rugby player. He's a purple belt training out of Proving Grounds Jiu Jitsu. Did I get that right, Colin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And he is also founder of, and it's something we're going to talk about here in a moment, The Horde. And that's Metro Detroit's only 5-time-a-week 6 a.m. class. That's crazy. Who gets up at that time to train jiu-jitsu?
The crazy guys, apparently.
Yeah. He's also celebrating his first year of private practice and is on chiropractic practice. Colin, look, welcome, man. Excited to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. It's been an honor to be approached to do this episode, but also to be able to go from listener to participant on the podcast sphere. Quite the podcast listener myself. So
awesome, man. Well, we appreciate it. And it's crazy. So just how Colin and I got connected for the listeners, he posted a story. I think it was a story on Instagram. And as everybody knows, I'm really big. One of the things that keeps me in jiu-jitsu is the community and the vibe of the gyms that I train at and things like that. And it was a post of you dancing with I guess it was a member of your
it's
class.
Actually my wife. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good. And man, it just really kind of stood out. And I reached out and said, "Hey, man, that's awesome, and I want to get you on for a conversation." So here we are. But before we get into our big topics, let's learn a little bit more about you. Your background, what your connection to jiu-jitsu is, how you kind of came into it. Like, what's your origin story, as we call it?
Sure. Well, as you touched on, Joe, I'm a former Division I collegiate rugby player. I played at my alma mater, Life University. It's a chiropractic school, for those of you not familiar, in Marietta, Georgia. Did all 4 years of undergrad there. I did an exercise science degree, and then I went on to become a chiropractor through that school as well. And that's where I transitioned. Once I got injured playing rugby, I had a really gnarly shoulder injury, had to have surgery, decided I'm done playing rugby for a little bit. Would be a better use of my time. So I picked up rock climbing and then jiu-jitsu afterwards. Person I can credit that for is one of my best friends, Doug. He and I met in chiropractic school. He was training at the gym that I'm currently calling my home gym up here in Michigan. He went down to Georgia to start the school, and he was always telling me about it. I'd seen it on the TV. I've watched UFC. So I was like, yeah, you know what? We'll try it. The stereotypical, like, I'm a man. I can do that. I've done all this other crap. So he finally one day said, man, I don't want to hear another word until you come to the 6 a.m. and try it. And I was like, well, I can't not do it now. So
challenge accepted, right?
Yep. It's been history ever since. Finished chiropractic school. We both became chiropractors. He went off to Michigan and has since done his thing. And now we are fortunate enough to be where we're at, where I've been able to create a small little group of crazy people called the Horde,
Yeah,
where we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and start at 6, and we don't stop sometimes until 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning.
that's nice. I'll tell you, I joked about, who gets up that early, but I used to get up that early too. When I was working in Atlanta at
Mm,
my position before I worked at this last company, and it's one of the reasons I switched gyms and went to Alliance. That's where I met
mm.
Dark. We have another point of
Ah,
connection, right?
the
Um,
third.
yeah, that guy. Whew, and he would beat me up every morning from like 6 to 7 a.m.
Right?
And I mean, beat me up. I bet when I started rolling against him, I was a 2-stripe white belt. He was a blue belt. Um, I bet you in 5-minute round, he tapped me 6 or 7 times, man. It was brutal, brutal,
Well,
brutal.
put
I
work
mean,
in.
it got better over time. It got less and less. And still to
Right.
this day, I haven't beat him in a round. He knows it's a life goal of mine.
Heck yeah.
It's a little harder now. We don't train in the same area, but I'm hoping that goes to my advantage. And I know he listens, so he
Heck
knows
yeah.
I'm coming
Well,
still.
if that's the case, I got to shout him out. Dark, I hope you and the missus are having fun, my friend. We miss you up here in Michigan. All of the KK guys, as Joe mentioned, I've glossed over it a little bit. I am originally from the Atlanta area, with jujitsu, so I trained out of KKs. That's who I got my blue belt under, and yeah, Michigan and Atlanta, they're two different styles of jujitsu. It's wild. It's a very
Yeah,
big difference.
it really is. And then even when you go start training down in South Georgia,
Oh
like
yeah.
Georgia is one of those states that is kind of growing, I think, in jujitsu gym like um, creations or like people
Mm.
starting gyms. A lot of
Oh
like
yeah.
purple and brown belts now, I think, in jujitsu are starting gyms where it used to be like, I don't know, when it was first on the scene in the US, like you had to be black belt or get Gracie affiliated or something, right?
Right. Right.
But like in Georgia, it just seems like it's exploding and all through the Southeast. I mean, Northeast, it's been pretty, pretty dominant. I don't know. Do you guys have a high density of gyms around you?
Um, More towards, so if you're familiar, everybody from Michigan knows. If you're familiar, you do the
You got the
hand.
UP, right?
Yeah,
They call. I guess
all the
that's
way
what
up
they
here.
call the UP.
Down here, north, more towards Detroit, there's a very big
Yeah,
area. In fact, off the top of my head, there's 5, maybe 6 big name gyms. You got
yeah,
Assembly with Dave Garmo. You have there's ourselves, Proving Grounds. You've got the juvenile competitors. Our top ranked competitor, Joe and David, are both juvenile pans and now adult ADCC trial veterans.
wow,
You have Voyage, which is also over in the Metro Detroit area. But then if you go up a little bit higher, you hit another alliance. You have
yeah,
Port Huron. You have a couple other big name gyms that are rather heavy hitters in the jujitsu community, so to speak.
yeah. Yeah, those big franchise gyms is heavy in competition. That was one thing I noticed when training with Alliance. I'm full circle now. I'm back in Iron Wolf, and they fall under Logic. I'm not sure if you're familiar with
I've
Logic.
heard about it. Yeah.
Uh, Christian Woodmansey
Okay.
is kind of who they fall under, but it's crazy how just jujitsu continues to grow and to expand, and like there's no slowing down, man. I mean,
Nope.
it's insane. And I've learned even more with the podcast and things like that. Did you get your blue belt through Kenny Kim, or
Yep.
was that you did, right?
Got it on the morning class. He called us up and was like, "Hey, I got this guy and this guy. They've been working their butts off." And I was,
Yeah,
"Oh
he's
my god.
uh,
Oh my god, it happened." And then he was
that
like, "All
seems
right,
like
go
just
grab a partner."
yeah, it I'll tell you it was so I'm a blue belt
Okay.
and I think I've had my blue belt maybe for a couple years now. Um But I remember just thinking, wow, like all those hard mornings and all those tabs, it was like it felt worth it. And you got your purple belt at the Proving Grounds, correct?
Yep, I've been up here since 22, and
Oh yeah,
before I got into Proving Grounds, I was living out in Jackson, which is right dap smack in the middle of Michigan.
yeah,
Um, there wasn't a whole lot of training out there, and really the only standardized type of training that I got was driving all the way to the gym that I'm currently at every other week
right.
or once a month for about a year, and then we had a little bout of homelessness, so we fought through adversity, and we're like, all right, let's get back after it, and was able to kind of step into the position that molded into what we are now, which is the leader of the
That's
6
nice.
a.m., starting that out and creating something new.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed there's a need for 6 early morning classes. There really is. It
Sure.
was really convenient for me, and, like Iron Wolf now, we have a 5:30 AM Friday, but that's it,
Gotcha.
and it alternates between gi and no gi, and I'm not opposed to no gi. I train both, but I prefer gi.
Sure.
So I like getting extra gi time in, but it's hard when it's kind of only a Friday. What kind of made you think, okay, you know what, we need to maintain, we need to build something here, this horde early morning thing, right?
Two big factors actually played into that. One was my career as a chiropractor. I'm kind of
Yeah,
hamstrung. At the time I was working for the Joint Chiropractic, I had become the head chiropractor and opened up an office. People in the area know it as Clarkston. It's where Pine Knob, a big um, concert venue, is up near us. Um, there was a chiropractor office there, position. So we stepped in and filled that void. Well, that meant my schedule was 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday every single week, and most people were training either noon or 7 in this area, and my closest gym would have been either up in Flint or where my current gym is. So I'd be getting to practice at 7:30, maybe 7:45 if traffic was really crappy that night. And after about a week or two of doing that and making that trek out there after work, I realized, one, I'm not going to progress past blue belt if I have to keep doing that.
right. Yeah,
Two, I'm just frustrating myself. So I ended up approaching a couple guys and said, "Hey, if I put together a 6 a.m., would you guys be interested in like checking it out?" And it was usually the dads of the group, the little bit older individuals or people with jobs that took them away from training. There was a couple people that said, "Yeah." So I was like, "All right, let me talk to the coach now. Let's see if there's even a room for that in his world." So luckily there was, and he gave us our blessing, and that was the birth of the horde.
yeah.
We decided, hey, wing and a prayer type of activities, and you build it and they will come type of results. So
Yeah, we they call the one at Iron Wolf the Sleepy Assassins.
I love it.
I thought, and then Dark and I, what did we do? We even had a patch made for at Alliance. It was the caffeinated rollers.
I
It was
love it,
awesome,
Joe.
and
Oh,
he made them, and we so those of if you I think if you did X amount of morning classes, you got one of these patches. I still have it sewn on one of my Alliance geese.
and
It was
that's a point of pride, isn't it?
yeah, it was so cool.
I
Um,
love it.
yeah,
uh,
it is. I like it. I kind of equate it with that mentality of, and I like this. I see a lot of gyms doing like women only classes.
yep,
So women aren't just always in there with the guys and the heavyweights and stuff. They get something.
right,
It's just kind of the same thing, right? Those that would probably quit eventually because they can't work all day and then train jujitsu all night, especially if they're
right.
have families. So that's awesome, man. That's exciting to hear that you guys are doing that and that you're leading that. So
It's funny you mentioned the patch too. So KK had a patch. You
yeah,
guys got one as well. Our de facto nickname, if you see the logo, it's a little zombie duck.
yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Yeah, I'm gonna
So
put it in the show notes so people can check it out.
heck yeah. I ended up falling in love with the idea of the patch. The hey, you've been around long enough type of deal. So one of our guys, David Rice, he is now a blue belt. He was the last year Pan American champion for, I forget what belt, but a juvenile
Nice.
pan champion. His dad created a company, so we have our own in-house no-gi kind of branded company. And I approached him and said, "Hey, we want to do a no-gi set. Can you do this design for me?" And we ended up having custom rash guards made for the
Oh
ring group
man.
with that logo on it, and it actually has my patch on the side for my company,
Oh, you gotta let
completely
me know
designed.
where to pick that up, man, and
I
buy one
will,
of those. That
I
sounds
will
awesome.
send one.
I
Heck yeah,
love.
man! I will send you one.
I
Um,
I'm excited this year. We have an affiliate sponsor, Rubber Bones. I met their owner and CEO, our founder, Maria, and like her artwork is just, I don't know, it's just really cool and edgy. I
Heck
love
yeah!
it.
I was
I love
wondering how
all
you
that
got in
stuff.
with Rubber Bones.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is this having a game, and people talk a lot about having a game plan in jiu-jitsu, and I always thought this was the perfect time to share this quote, and I love it when Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yep.
It's true when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Guard players have a game. uh, Heavier or bigger guys kind of have that pressure passing game. Leg lockers have a game. Wrestlers, right? They
Yep.
definitely have a game, and they come to the table with a little bit of a advantage. But what does it mean to you when someone says, maybe a white belt or blue belt, or someone says, I'm developing my game in jujitsu? What comes to mind, and what are some of the things you start thinking about?
Um, Originally, I would say, all right, you're workshopping something. That's where you're kind of sharpening the iron. Um, Now I would say more so as a coaching standpoint is like, all right, is this person taking the step? All right, if step A of a Kimura is identifying, all right, I want to do a Kimura, and step B is, all right, this is the grip, and then this is how I go down the line. It's identifying where that individual is at for me. Some of the earlier, uh, newer guys, you can see it kind of click in their head, like, I want to go after this arm, but I have no idea what to do with it. And then the guys that have been here a little bit longer, once they've gotten that rhythm of, all right, this attacks this wrist or this bends this part of the arm, they start to piece it together, and then you can just watch it happen in slow motion. So once we determined that, that was where I started to pick up, all right, your body type, your style, your mentality is going to lend yourself to one side of the spectrum over the other side. Like if you're a super aggressive wrestler, you're probably not going to set as many traps as like a really sneaky guard player would, and vice versa.
Right.
It's the dichotomy or the the separate poles of those games started to show themselves more.
Yeah. I how many years have you been training jiu-jitsu now, Colin?
I started January of 21
Oh yeah.
and
So a while now.
came up here. Yeah, came up here in
Okay.
22.
Yeah. So this is a question I'm very comfortable asking, especially since you're coaching now. Uh, from say white belt to maybe blue belt, even up to purple belt. Like, at what point do you feel a jujitsu practitioner starts to actually have a game versus having just a few moves? I didn't start feeling like I had an actual game until maybe about 9 or 10 months ago, to be honest with you. But there is a point, right?
Oh, 100%. If I know what it is yet, I am not quite there, but where I can feel my specific journey of jujitsu is going, I've gone away from, all right, I want to look at just kimuras or arm bars or a specific attack, to where can I find these specific attacks? Like, all right, can I find a Kimura in side control? Can I find it in north south? Can I find it inside mount? Can I find it on the bottom? Can I find it in turtle? And yes, we have a guy that can do Kimuras from turtle, and it's horrifying. Um, so those steps in the trajectory of finding the game are where it changed for me. Whereas when I was a blue belt, I was sitting there going, all right, today I want to work my Kimuras. And I would do a topside Kimura. I would do a north-south Kimura. I would do the mounted Kimura probably twice and then go off and do whatever else was given to me. And that's where that kind of split happened. Honestly, for me, about late blue belt. I'd say like third or fourth straight blue belt for me.
We hear the term A game a lot when talking about game plans in jiu-jitsu or whatever. Sometimes this is just I wonder if we kind of misinterpret that a little bit or misunderstand what an A game is. I think a lot of times, here's what it meant to me when I first started seeing it was, um, can I land, if I land the punch choke X amount of times in a row, I am on my A game. But I think that's a misunderstanding of it, right? I think it should be broader, right? Like all the way from takedown to pass to what I mean, do you think that's something
I
that we do a lot in jujitsu is kind of misinterpret what an A game should be?
I definitely agree. And I think you said it perfectly was when I was in that earlier blue belt, white belt phase, it was, all right, I can hit this move, this move, this move, this move, this move, however many times I want. And that's now my A game. No, 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 no. It's all right. Can I take it from, for example, right now, my A game would be the front headlock to a turtle to Darce to
Oof,
Anaconda, punch choke, the whole
man,
chain of events.
that's a hard path.
Yeah, it's a
That's if
hard
you're good
path.
at that, that's awesome, man.
Um, but what it came from was identifying a lack of exposure to it in the community around us. Even though we have a strong wrestling base, not a whole lot of people up here are attacking the front headlock the way they should be. And it took upper level black belt in Don, one of our high level coaches, going, "Hey, here's an anaconda look," and I immediately looked at it and went, "That's getting added today." And then we did it over and over again. And then I was like, hey, wonder what happens if I change my grip here from a Darce to an Anaconda or Anaconda to Darce. Oh, wow. And then that just evolved into, wow, I can hit this on whoever I want. Okay. That's the change into the
Like what an
game.
A game really is, right? Like
Right.
this, yeah. If you can go through that whole sequence, and also like addressing the counters,
Mhm.
um, I think that's important. It sounds like as we talk, developing a game gives really is important and it gives us structure, but the structure can also be limiting if we're not careful. If we're thinking only about submissions, which I I remember as a white belt, that's all I thought jujitsu was is just
All
submissions.
right. Uh,
Um,
how do I
but
do that?
yeah, it brings. I think it brings us to kind of the trap side of this all,
Yep.
and one thing I've noticed in training is that being comfortable can kind of be a little sneaky. And what I mean, it doesn't always feel you're trying to avoid something. Sometimes it feels like being smart, but you go with what works, right? I mean, I all of my jujitsu right now is pretty much based in two out of two closed guards, right? Closed guard and then half guard, but you kind of play where you feel strong and you avoid positions where you feel clumsy. No one, uh, I won't say no one, but a lot of us don't even train both sides when we're drilling technique. But over time, that can narrow our development. Where do you see? I am getting to a question here. Where do you see the line between kind of smartly? That's a word. Relying on your strengths and hiding in your comfort zone. Like, where's that line between those two?
I would say it really depends on your frame of timelines. So if you're prepping for a tournament or if you're prepping for a super fight or any type of competition type of style training, your goal isn't necessarily to learn more techniques or to learn more strategies to win. It's to figure out what brought you. I know Mike Tyson, we had a great thing. It's like you're not going to come to the dance with somebody else or leave the dance with somebody else when you came with this person. You got to go to the dance and leave the dance with the person you came here for. That's what training is. So taking that lesson into jujitsu is if I'm getting ready for a competition, I can't be worried about picking up new skills, I got to hone that. And if I'm just training, that's the time to kind of bridge out and be like, oh, I don't care about getting tapped. Like, as some people who have followed us know, is I'm 160 pounds and I'm 5'7". Our biggest guy is 329 pounds and 6'3".
Oof.
So he's a big man. And it's just playing today's rules in the back of my head. That style of training, if I were to go hard every single round with every person I have, I might be able to beat 45, 50% of them straight up just on skill, but I'm going to get worked and destroyed trying to play that game. So what we end up doing is
Yeah.
playing all right, let's play this position. Oh, yeah, you threw me. Let's reset and let's play this position again. And let's hone your skill and my skill at the same time. And
Right.
that's
Right.
been the
Yeah.
bigger change.
Yeah. I like that. Do you think there are some like tells or some signs that and again, this can be from your perspective too, not just, what you see with other, students or what have you that you're coaching,
Sure.
but have you noticed any signs that a player's game is starting to maybe stunt their growth? Maybe they're staying on this too long and not um, venturing out and
Um,
improving, like adding more tools to the toolkit.
yeah, there's a big principle that we have in the morning classes. One, treat every round like it's not ADCC. Everybody always says that it's like you either treat the round like ADCC finals or it's just another lazy day in the park. I personally have this mindset of I can giggle and still try to choke you. So we can have fun and do everything, but we're still getting the work done. And I think that's where I want to see jujitsu kind of transition out is we can still have those really hard dog rounds where it's like we're going for collar ties really hard. We're going for snap downs really hard. But if you do something funny, like make me fly 3 feet through the air because you moved your arm too quickly, I'm going to giggle like a little child because, well, I mean, that's the giggly part of jujitsu. And if you can't have fun doing this, I think you might be in the wrong spot. Um,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
that
Yeah,
much
it
of a
has to stay
fun
light.
game, Yep. Staying
Yeah,
light's the important part. Our job as training partners, at least my mentality is if I'm not the one working, right? Like if I'm not the one putting, all right, I want to do this, I have to give you the correct response for whatever you're working. So for example, if I'm working single leg X and you don't do the proper step back, what did you do though that I could be working on? Um, and vice versa. If you're I start rounds and say, hey, what are you working on today, Joe? And you say, hey, I'm working on collar drags to darces or whatever the thing is. All right, well, let's see what it looks like. You might grab the collar right away, or you might grab a collar sleeve or however it is, and then we start from there. um, it allows for us to just bridge past the ego a little bit and go, all right, this is what we're working on, go.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned the collar drag. I'm working on that this week. Love that. I used to be a solely guard puller, but I got tired of just pulling people into the worst positions ever, which is on top of me. Can do you think that someone can be? This is a weird question, but can someone be winning around or beating opponent after opponent, but still be developing poorly? Kind of
A
feels
hundred
like
percent.
yeah,
A hundred
yeah,
percent. To say that you're beating people means you're winning, yes, but to say you're beating people and that you're progressing is not the same thing. If you
yeah,
just want to win tournaments, there's a straight ankle lock for everybody. But if you
yeah,
want to learn how to do jujitsu and be a superhero, you can. And I think that's the interesting part. And that's more where I like to focus is like, all right, let's learn Kimuras today. Let's learn a different move. Let's learn this.
yeah.
So that way, when you do see it later down the line, it makes a little bit more sense than just, okay, you know how to do that. Good job.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that's good insight, and I think that's an important point. And that's why I wanted to bring it up because sometimes, the mat scoreboard can lie to us. I think
Oh,
I
yeah.
like I've lost rounds to people. So I develop more losing around to say Darek than losing around to someone who is a collegiate state champion wrestler who maybe has been training jujitsu for, a few months, and they outweigh me by almost 100 pounds. Like it's different, right? And we think that, maybe I'm doing fine because I'm surviving or sweeping, passing, whatever. Um, but it's just not the case. I think you have to look at what you walk away from that role with, if you win or if you lose, right?
100%.
Because I think we all, and just in life in general, we learn more from losses than wins. At least that's my opinion. I think once people kind of start solving this for themselves, another issue shows up in this whole game planning and staying on this game over and over, and that's predictability. And that's something that I see when I work kind of the same stuff over and over, especially in smaller gyms. I think one of the most interesting parts about jujitsu is that the room does eventually learn you.
Mm.
I know I keep coming back to Dart, but it's just because we have this point of interest, same point of interest here, and I've learned a lot of my early jujitsu was spent with him. I started learning some of his stuff. Didn't really matter, but he found ways around it. But your training partners start to know your grips and your entries and your favorite side to work things or your favorite passes, your timing, whatever, right? You start to get very predictable when you work this A game over and over. And I guess the question is, how how do we become predictable without realizing it? And then what are some of the clues that um, we kind of give off to our training partners that they start saying, okay, yeah, this is the game? I mean, what are some of the ones that stand out maybe for you and your experience?
Um, that's a really good question. I recently have seen a big jump in this dilemma for me where it's all right, I'm right now I'm trying to work my judo a little bit, or I'm trying to work some
Nice.
takedowns, and what'll happen is that I'll get it once kind of messy, and then I'll be like, all right, let's try to get it clean this time. And the second time I go for it, they either are just guessing 100% correct and they do the exact wrong thing for me. So if I'm going for a foot sweep, they pick the foot that I'm trying to sweep up and move it away from me, and now I got to reset everything in my brain. Or they don't, and they kind of somewhat respond to the question a little bit, and that forces me to go, all right, I can either force this move or abandon it. And that's where I think the predicament of predictability kind of comes in, is if
Uh-huh.
you always force the move, they're going to know that's coming. And if you never force the move, they're not going to respect it enough to try it. So
Right.
you got to kind of split that difference of force it sometimes because you just got to get the rep done, and then hey, that wasn't clean enough, let's reset it up. And somewhere in between down the line, it's going to just click. And
Right.
that's been my take on that.
Well, I think that's a good take. Um I don't think predictabilities necessarily are always bad,
Agree.
but the difference between predictability, or what do you think? Do you think there's a difference between being predictable and something being dependable? Like,
a hundred
because
percent.
I think our games uh, should be less of one, more of the other. But I mean, do you feel like there's a difference between that?
100%. And to kick it back to when I played rugby, our school, Life University, was a D1 school. We were nowhere near the size of any of the other D1 players. To a man, I think we lost 20 pounds to the disadvantage. Um, that being said, one of the things we did very well was the basics. We would drill the basics until every person understood them and could complete them as prescribed. And that allowed us to, one, when we were tired, not have to think as hard, and two, allowed us to focus on other skills, right? A lot of people always forget that fitness and your cardiovascular ability is a skill and it is trainable. Rugby, back to that, is a thinking man's game. Jiu-jitsu is human chess,
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're not thinking, you're dying literally. And that's kind of the fun part of jujitsu, is if the more you get exposed to it, the faster you can answer questions. The faster you answer questions, the more questions you can ask in 5 minutes. And the more questions you
Right.
ask in 5 minutes, the more you can actually do the game.
How do you think someone should kind of respond when their A game starts getting shut down? Like, what are some of the things they need to start thinking about as a workaround, either during a roll or like after, and they're like sitting back, okay, this just isn't working for me anymore.
Um, my personal, when my A game stops working, I don't necessarily look at it as a negative. I know some people do. Um, to me, it's an opening to a new set of skills. So if I have, let's say, for example, my turtle game, my head front headlock down to the Dars, down to the anaconda punch choke. If my A game is to take you down and then submit you with a Dars, it may look like I'm throwing you the anaconda first, but it's only because I know that that's the fastest way to get to that Dars entry for me in that chain. So if you're able to roll with me, for example, too many times in a row, and you know that that's how I get to that entry, you start hiding your neck, you start laying flat, you start that chain. Well, it's a pretty easy pivot from that locked up rear naked choke to the Dars. All I got to do is step over your hip line. So that's where the game goes from, all right, a distinctive A to B to C game down the line, instead of being, hey, I know these techniques and how they chain. That's how
Yeah.
I've taken a look at how to chain things. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people, the holy trinity for that, where it's like, all right, you have one, you have all three. That's my first.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it's perfect. It is. It's about learning how to chain things together. That's something that I've started to see even in my game, is the ability to chain different things, and it's almost like kind of like a dependable game says, I have a clear path. A predictable game is, well, I only have one path, and
Right.
I think having a clear path that obviously works is better than having just one path. Like you it's real cool you talk about turtle, because I have a hard time keeping people on turtle. I mean, they want to get out of that as fast as possible, and I it's like, if you don't have different ways to chain, whether it's the Darce or Anaconda, like, you're not going to hold that position long. So someone like you in your game, you're going to have as little bit of less predictability than any path
Mhm.
that needs to be taken, if that makes sense.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mm. I think the question becomes, how do we keep a dependable game while adding more paths? Like, how do we do that? And I think a lot of people hear expand your game, um, get better with your transitions, and they assume it means they need to throw everything out and start chasing just these random techniques. Like, I don't do double leg takedowns. I
Okay.
won't ever. I don't shoot in where I have to put my knee on the ground, because man, my knees are terrible. I have the knees of a 70-year-old. But you know, I think this can become its own problem, and you don't want to become scattered, and especially go after things won't work.
Right.
You want the expansion to connect with what you already do and what you're good at. Um, I don't know if you're familiar with, and you may be, as you're a business owner, but Strengths Finder is this business method of improving yourself and your strengths. And basically, what it is it has you focus on what you're good at and get even better than putting energy into something you're half good at. And that's what I'm talking about here.
Right.
How can someone expand their game, in your opinion, without abandoning things that already work for them? Like, you wouldn't stop doing Darce because people aren't, you wouldn't completely never do darts again.
Right.
If that makes sense.
To take it a step back, I would say it kind of breaks down to the personal philosophy of we all had when we first came into jiu-jitsu, at least the ones like us that have taken it farther than just white belt. Of holy crap, that was really cool. Can you do that again? Because that's how I learn. Is I'm a little bit of a caveman, and my training partners from Marietta will say the same thing. Oh, I remember him getting constantly leg locked. Well, that's because that was really cool, and I wanted to see it again. And that's kind of my mentality of it. Is like you said it a second ago. What would I do if somebody started laying flat or getting out of the darts?
Yep.
Well, that's what bred into the punch choke. That's what led into the switching my arms to the anaconda versus the darce, and how I'm able to do that from the front headlock as the origination position. It didn't become a game until I realized all three of those could happen at the same time. And that was
nice.
where, all right, even if I'm going to do that, which one am I going to hit you with?
Right.
You don't know, because they're all the same grip. They're all the same entry. They're all the same thing.
And they can't defend all of them at once. Right?
Exactly.
That's the important part.
And that right there is the key is, all right, when you're learning something new as the person doing the reps on it, you have to remove your ego before the other person does. So that way, oh, I got single leg X this week. All right. How many different entries are there? There's the knee shin to shin, there's back door, there's front door, there's all of these different entries into these positions. All right. Now that we're into that position, what can that position do? It does this, it does this, it does this. Okay, how can I now chain that from a live roll into that position? And that's been what the theme of the transition would be, is moving it into that gamification zone.
Got you. How would you recommend somebody that you're coaching choose kind of what to add next? Is it they look at what's worked for them in the past and stay similar, or should they go like way and try some uncharted territory? I mean, how would you coach maybe yourself or somebody else that needed to add some more levels?
Usually, one of the big principles we do in the Horde is, if we don't get the curriculum through the coaches that teach the evening classes first, like for today, for example, we had class before they posted it. Today we did single leg X, like we were just talking about. The reason being is we had some newer guys that had never seen leg locks before. Well, how can I get newbies into that position safely and effectively and get them something that they might be able to use today? So we taught the straight ankle lock from single leg X. I didn't teach the entry into it. I just taught them how to throw their hips up and tip them over. So to answer that, it's using the building blocks as the goal mark, instead of being like, all right, the goal is to learn the straight ankle lock of the single leg X. The goal is to learn how to lift your hips here. The goal is to then learn how to kick them out this way. Now the goal is to learn how to collect the foot, because that was a more digestible path for them. Because I'm sure you've seen it or you've been a witness to it, where a coach says 8 million things in a language that sounds foreign, and now your eyes are glazed over and you don't remember what he said.
Yeah. I think that's a common thing, like a forever thing, where it makes sense when he's explaining it, but then when the clap goes off, it all goes away, right?
The hallucination clap, and it's gone.
One of the like foundations or the reasons why I launched Caffeinated Jiu Jitsu was because I think I mentioned this on our kind of intro call, is like it felt so overwhelming, especially when it came to techniques and learning and things like that. There's just endless amount. How do you teach people to not, or how to avoid becoming technique collectors, right? Like just like I have all these notebooks from when I was a white belt and early blue belt, and they're just filled with techniques. And I bet a third of them I've never even used or probably will use.
Exactly.
But I spent a lot of time writing about them.
Writing and looking them up.
I don't do that anymore. Just, but does that question make sense?
Yeah.
Is it kind of clear? Okay.
The short answer for me is, how do I stop people from becoming technique collectors? I
Mhm.
think it goes back to what I do for a living. So as a chiropractor and as a medical practitioner, I have to know a lot for my job. I have to know OBGYN through state boards. I have to know biochemistry and all of these other steps that the state boards tell me in order to put
Mm.
DR in front of my name and DC after my name.
Yep.
And as a jiu-jitsu athlete, that's very similar. If you want to be a blue belt, you got to know how to hip escape and do all of these steps. So collecting a technique becomes the goal of the early white and blue belt stage. But around mid blue belt, if you're going with some consistency, you should see, in a core essence, the vast majority of jiu-jitsu. You're going to see an
Right.
armbar. You're going to see a leg lock. You're going to see a kimura. Whatever the position, you're going to see it. To me, that means you've been exposed to it. And then there's that step farther of, I want to do only straight ankles in this position, and almost like the Gordon Ryan of like calling
Yeah.
your shot.
Yeah.
And how do you play that kind of, all right, I don't want to be a technique collector, but don't want to be so not risk averse, but say, hey, I'm going only for arm bars from
Yeah.
now on, like
Yeah.
it, or Hodger Gracie only submitting people with the cross collar
Cross choke
in
from now.
competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's a
Like
technical
it's coming.
mastery. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
technical mastery that like I aspire to have, but I
Yeah.
couldn't sit there and handicap myself at a world stage and be like, you mean to tell me I'm not going to sit back on this heel hook, or I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit back on this straight ankle lock?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do that. I'm going to
Yeah.
take the win. I'm going to get my name up in the lights, and we're going to do our
Mm-hmm.
thing and do the coaching.
I'm gonna get my medal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're just
Yeah.
doing it for the fun of the game, like I'm sure, I don't think you're taking this to a
No, I'm
professional.
not gonna be a world champion or
I'm not either.
giving any
God forbid.
IBJJF instructionals.
So,
But
as the
yeah.
hobbyists that we are, to be a technique collector would be somebody that goes above and beyond, I would
Yeah.
say, just getting exposed to the positions and to how you can use each position.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
where I separate it.
Yeah, I think the flying armbar is awesome to watch,
Right?
but should I spend time in class learning that? I don't
Oh,
know. I mean, I'm like, obviously, if the professor's going to teach it, I'm going to work on it and drill it, but like, I'm never going to do that. Ever.
I
And
remember at KK's it was early in my white belt. We were doing a drill, and I remember looking over at it going, you guys want me to do that? What?
yeah, well, especially if because you said you were what, 5'10",
Yeah,
5'9",
5'7", 5'7".
5'7". Yeah. Yeah. So, Um, yeah, and a lot of people in the gym are, at least in my gym, are bigger than me, and I'm not tall at all. I'm like 5'10", and I'm 5'10" or 5'11", and I'm 180 something, and everybody's bigger than me. So like, there's only, I guess part of my A game is, or part of my game development has been around who I'm training with. Right,
Agreed.
like, I don't want a big guy on top of me. It's gonna be hard to get them off of me, right? If they, you know, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I think there's a big difference between, um, what's a term? It's a good time to put a term in there. Kind of productive discomfort, right? You can still be, you can be uncomfortable, but you can still be productive, and then just getting smashed in random positions. And I think people need a way to train outside of our comfort zone without feeling like we're wasting time or maybe destroying our confidence or their confidence. How can we, train? Um, I don't want to say, how can we train discomfort in a productive way? Right? Maybe how can we use that to be productive? Does that make sense? I feel like,
Yeah.
okay, good.
A great example of that is getting comp prep ready for some of our guys, especially being one of the smaller individuals in my gym. I have to hamstring one of our guys. He's rather big compared to me. So
Yeah.
him and I rolling straight up, standing like I would in a comp round, that doesn't do him any good. Like he can throw me halfway across the room just by picking me up. Um, Simultaneously, we have a guy that's really, really, really good at leg locks, but has a terrible time with wrestling. So we have to artificially create the competition level for them. So for the bigger guy, I have him play mainly guard and say, hey, can you actually try to stop somebody that's a lightweight from running around you and doing the Speedy Gonzalez style constantly attacking? And then in the other side of the spectrum as a coach, I have to turn around and say, all right, you're too good at that. What does it feel like when I pin you down to the ground, can you actually do the correct answer to that move?
Yeah.
Um, that's been the hardest part is being able to do both and do it effectively without having to pull in somebody else and be like, hey, roll with this guy, do this, this, and this only, because that's part of getting a team ready for a competition. You know they're going to
Yeah.
see some heavy pressure. You know they're going to see some wild leg locks, and you know they're going to see some crazy passing. So how do you simulate that becomes the coach's like job, in my opinion, is my team gets better if I'm the one helping them hone it, either a move or a particular idea as far as, all right, you're on bottom. How do I get up? You got to be a dog, man. Get up. Like, don't just accept it. Like,
Just stand
there's
up.
certain, yeah, just
Yeah.
stand up. There's certain times where you just got to put your big boy pants on or big
Yeah.
girl pants on and get up. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
lay there and take it.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so,
That's a great point. You got to keep moving.
yeah.
Because I help with the kids class now at Iron Wolf, and there's this one kid, and he's there for like 3 hours because he stays for Tungstado and all that. But he'll do that, man. And he's a big guy, he's a tough kid, and he just kind of lays there. And I'm like, dude, you're gonna just lay there. They're gonna submit you.
Yeah.
But I think this is one of the points I wanted to bring up. Hearing your responses, I think this is important. Well, I think it's important that gyms really make time for specific training and not just always drill the technique and then go roll for an hour. Because I can tell you, especially in developing a game plan, specific training has helped me a lot.
Mm.
Do you feel like well, you may know them as the positional type rounds. Do you think there's a lot of value in that type of training? Do you feel like someone can get more out of that than live rounds? What are your thoughts on that?
It depends on the frame of reference, in my opinion. If you want both parties to excel and get the most out of each round, a positional is going to be probably your best bet because you can control the ego a little bit.
Mm,
If your goal is to get that ego flared up a little bit, and you want to get that comp ready, kind of I'm the biggest in the room, you're gonna have to let them kind of battle it out and take the reins off a little bit.
right.
One of the warm ups we like to do, especially with newer people, when we have a lot of people, is called the human chess game. So I make a move, you make a move. If I grab your right wrist with my right wrist, and now we're same side, that's all I'm allowed to do. Now you make another move. So we're able to ramp up and turn it into a flow roll kind of that way. Uh, but as far as like controlling, hey, you have too much horsepower for me. Like you're too strong. I can't combat that. Well, if you're only going 80%, I'm going 100%, I run the risk of getting hurt. You're not really getting a full comp round out of it. Or I could start us on our back, and now I've got my seatbelt on you, and you've got to strip my grips, and you got to work your A game to kind of get out of it. That's where
Right.
I see it, is how you prep for it is determines whether or not, all right, we're just having fun or we're prepping for something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great point. It's just I've been to gyms where they sometimes uh like they'll teach the technique, you'll drill the technique, then you'll do positional training and they won't do any rolling. I think it's good when you kind of do a mix, do the
Agreed.
positional training, then you go. I think that's what you get the most. And I think this brings really up something deeper because this is not just all about being technical. There is an identity piece to all of this A game discussion. You mentioned Hodger Gracie, and we both knew exactly what you were going to say. Cross choke from the mount, like that's
Yep.
everybody in jiu-jitsu knows, and everybody knows it's coming. And he does this at the highest level. And this guy
Yep.
fought Bushesha and did it. I mean, it's just, I think that I think what I find interesting is that people, we just don't. It's just not about developing a game. We often develop this identity around it, and I'm a guard puller, or I'm a pressure passer, I'm a wrestler, leg locker, whatever, and that can be helpful, but it can also be limiting. Do
100%.
you think people become too attached to their jujitsu identity?
I do, Joe. It's one of the things that I know all of us have seen is like, oh, guard pulling stupid. Oh,
Oh,
if
the
you
big
can't.
IG debate, man.
Oh,
Oh, it used
dude.
to rage bait me. I would see
Oh,
that.
it still rage baits me. It's still to this day. I look at it and go, okay, but the people that are complaining the most about it, you watch their matches and they can't pass
They
open
can't
guard,
pass guard.
and and wrestling. That's the other side. Like, it's normally not the Olympic wrestlers that are really complaining about wrestling either. It's the people that think they know how to wrestle, and I'm like, I never wrestled collegiately. I never wrestled any type of way like that, but I know that I wouldn't be saying, "Hey, go wrestle with this person" if that was my A game. Like, no, I'm gonna stand across from you and be like, "All right, so I can leg lock you, or we can wrestle for a couple minutes, and hopefully I have a concussion at the minimum." Because,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, and who is it? J Flow Judo does these beautiful, I'm sure you've seen him, just absolutely beautiful wrestling clips where he's wrestling with somebody and then out of nowhere that person's floating through the air and lands on their back. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yep, that's why I pull guard, because I have too many concussions already. I'm good.
Yeah, I try not to go when I train, if I know it's somebody that's a wrestler and they just shoot the double leg and launch you halfway across the mat, I'm like, "Hey, dude, just if you do
Yep.
it, let's try not to do that."
Yeah. Like, I'm
um,
cool if you pick me up and you set me
yeah,
down. I'm cool with that. But like,
dude,
all right, guy, now I'm 40 feet away. Holy.
I've got a high deductible insurance plan, man. I got
Right.
family to feed, dude. Like
Joe,
that stuff.
you'll probably get a kick out of that. Like, I'm sure, I know you're what, in your 40s, mid
Yeah,
40s, early 40s.
46. Yep.
Okay, 32. Some of these guys, man, they come out swinging for the fences, and I'm like,
Oh
how old
man,
are you? They're
yeah,
like,
like
oh,
I'm
I'm 18
22.
or I'm 20,
Yeah.
22. I'm like, oh Lord,
Yeah, their
I got knee
testosterone levels
pain.
like 950.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, what do you do for work? Oh, you're still in school. That's why you're still full of
Yeah, you're
all of
still
that
on mom and
rage.
dad's insurance plan and don't have a care in the world, right? I
Yep. Sitting here limping into work on Monday, like, what the heck happened to me?
Yeah, in your case, if you can't see patients and move them around, you can't have income.
Right. Right. So I always tell the young guys, like, hey, I have to go to work today. Leave my
Yeah.
ankle, leave my knee. That's a big thing, is tell your training partners when you're hurt and
Yeah,
tell them what is hurt. So that way
that's
we don't
right.
touch it.
Yeah, especially
As,
if it's your knees or your back, which seems to be every injury in jiu-jitsu.
right.
Do you think identity can limit technical growth? I feel like it can a little bit.
100%.
Mhm.
100%. If you're too much caught, like we just were in the thralls of I'm a wrestler, I'm a guard puller, I'm a leg locker, you're to steal Dean Lister's words, why ignore half the body?
Yeah,
Um, you entered into jujitsu to learn the dark arts for a reason. So learn
right.
all of them. Why are you just focused on what's winning competitions? Sure, that's fun. Sure, it goes great on IG. Sure, it looks good for the gram, but I would say personal growth has to be the forefront. So if I'm trying to learn a new move or trying to learn something important in the sport, that's equal or more important in
Yeah.
my opinion than just being a good competitor? Can you leave the sport a better place? Can you develop something? I forget what's the last thing that came out. Was it the Woj lock or something recently besides the Woj lock? Aoki lock, the Woj lock. I guess those are the
Oh, you got
most
the Mikey lock, right? That's
and
out there
Mikey lock
now.
as well. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
remember
those are
seeing
the
that for the
most
first.
recent innovations of
Yeah.
jujitsu. And if you want to make a sport a lasting thing and continue to give back to generations behind you, like the ones that came before us, you gotta do that. You can't
Yeah.
just be, oh, it's only for me. You
That's
gotta
right.
leave a legacy.
Yeah, yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, that's definitely gonna be a sound clip. I think it's yeah, we should hang on to some of our identity because we may just like Elio Gracie, I mean, he used jujitsu to adapt to what he needed to do, and then now here we are. I think some of our identity is wrapped up in the way we do things and can lead to things like, the Mikey lock and all these new things that are coming out because jujitsu is always going to progress. It's always going to be new moves are going to come out. And if I think 80-90% of all practitioners just stay with what's comfortable, we won't keep evolving.
Right.
Um, I think that's a really good point. I, man, I don't know what I would bring to the table. It'd have to be something from Close Guard. I don't have
I can,
anything
I can
innovative
see that.
or like cool yet. Maybe when I'm a brown belt or get there, I'll have something.
I
But
hear that's the secret belt. That's the secret belt.
yeah, see, I heard it's purple belt. I'm kind of excited to see what all these new things are going to unlock in my mind and body as a purple belt because,
It
um,
did feel like that. When you get the purple, you're like, all right, now I'm a wizard. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Why are
that
blue belts so
wizard
easy?
jujitsu, right? Oh man, that's
Well,
funny.
and it's funny you bring that up. One of the things at white belt that we always did was like, all right, what's it like to be a blue belt? Oh my god, I can't wait to be a blue. As soon as you get that blue belt, all of the upper belts rip your legs off, and then
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of the
yeah.
lower
Or
belts want
wrist
to rip
lock
your
you.
head off
Yeah,
or wrist lock you. And then the same
yeah,
thing happened with purple belt. You get your purple belt, now the brown belts are like, all right, little guy, calm it down. And then the
yeah,
brown belts and black belts, they beat up on you. And now the blue and white belts are going, hey, I want to beat you because if I can do that, it means I get a purple belt. No,
yeah,
like no, we
yeah.
are we are gonna do that.
I saw a Joe Rogan clip on Instagram where he said, like, basically, if you're a purple belt, you're a black belt. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some in there, but I think what he meant was if you make it to purple belt, you have a high chance of getting a black belt. Um, Yeah, but I think that having an identity, but not getting um, comfortable in it and staying in it, and not allowing yourself to evolve. And kind of the last little segment here that I want to talk through with you, if you okay, if you still have some time, maybe about 15 more
We're
minutes or
doing
so,
great. We're doing great.
um, is building a dependable but really adaptable style. Like that's the end game, right? That's what we're talking about. You know, that's kind of bringing everything together. And the goal's not, I guess the goal here is not to become a completely different grappler every 6 months, right? I mean, it's okay. Like Hodger Gracie, everybody knows what he's known for, and he's not going to stop doing the cross collar choke. The goal
Right.
is to become harder to shut down and harder to predict, and you can have a recognizable style, and but it should always kind of have thinking like a tree, these layers and branches and responses. So what does a adaptable game look like to Dr. Smith on the mat, right? Like whether it's your game or something you look for. What does that adaptable game look like? That's a big question. I get it,
Uh,
but
I would have to say it's kind of in the asking of the question is what am I being asked by my opponent? If my opponent's a guard puller, all right, obviously they're not asking me to wrestle with them right now. They're like they might wrestle up, but if
right,
they're asking me questions, is my style or is my game able to answer those questions? Or does it bring up a whole new set of questions? For example, if going with the guard puller, if I'm on top and I have a guard puller who's really versed in leg locks, and my
Oof.
only option is to step in and try to go shin on shin with him, I'm gonna have a bad time. It doesn't matter how good I am, just by the nature of the position, I'm going to be behind the eight ball.
Right.
Um, Kind of similarly, if I'm more of a half guard player and I initiate a knee cut and they roll to their side and I'm able to collect the head a little bit, sit to a hip a little, I have a bunch of options. I can start looking for Darces, I can look for anacondas, I can look for Kimuras, I can look for step over arm bars if I free my leg. There's a whole plethora of options left and right. So it becomes a, do our games complement each other, or do they clearly shift the paradigm and put one above the other? That's where I would say that question starts. And then assuming that, hey, we're at the same parallels, all right, is my workload going to beat your workload? Is my frame on my leg going to be able to stop you from crushing and smash passing me? It becomes a very almost actual chess game of, all right, my pawn goes here, your pawn goes here, we stalemate. My pawn goes here, yours goes here. I capture it because it's a diagonal type of transaction instead of it being you're better than me, I'm better than you, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you use the chess analogy. I have my chessboard set up back here. I love. I've kind of my brother-in-law got me into chess,
Heck
and
yeah.
well, how do you think we should think about the long game development in jujitsu? Right, like is there a mindset we need to be? Humble, obviously, the lack of ego, but like, man, how should someone like myself kind of think about long game development?
I would say being a steward of the sport and be a student of the game. If you carry yourself as a ambassador and as somebody who's carrying the torch for the sport, you're going to create and want to create a lasting environment that is well rounded as well as honorable and to your stance, like you said. And if you want to be able to transition into any of the other sides of that, that's up to you at that point. You have to choose to do it though. You can't just expect it to happen for you. You have to wake up and consciously do it.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I Well, before we wrap up, Colin, I want to make this really kind of practical
Hmm.
for listeners who are driving home for training or are thinking about what to work next week. If someone feels like they may be too comfortable in the current game, what should they do first? Should they go watch a bunch of BJJ Fanatic stuff, or I
As
mean,
tempting
I
as that
used to,
is,
I lived on that as a white belt.
I feel that I had a very hard problem until I was an early blue belt with the PGG Fanatic
Yeah.
subscription. Um, I would have to say, if specifically speaking from a coach here, um,
Hmm.
I've noticed in my room when guys start to rely heavily on one thing or another, or they kind of get into the same patterning for the roles, I will throw them a curveball and say, hey, I want you to work your guard today. Or, hey, I want you to do this. And part of that is me prodding them saying, hey, go work something else so you can stop feeling so bored. And another part of that is trying to get them to realize there's more to jujitsu than, hey, Keisakatami or the big man Kimura or anything like that. Even if it's effective and you can do it on everybody in the gym, like, all right, cool. Can you do a leg lock? Can you do an arm bar? Can you do a an Americana? Because I've met people that can't do an Americana, but they can do a Kimura. I I don't understand it, but I guess that's part of the journey. You gotta learn the ins and outs of each position. But to answer as best as I can, I'd say getting out of your own way and realizing, hey, somebody in this room is better than me at something else. What is it and who is it? And if you want to learn what it is, try to pick their brain, try to use their game against them. For example, one of my training partners is really, really good at single leg X, and I want to be good at single leg X. So
Yeah.
I am constantly trying to pass his single leg X using high step passing and using shin on shin and all of the entries I know how to get at it. And some days I do okay, and some days he snaps my foot like a twig. It's it's the two edges
Yeah.
of the sword. You win some, you lose some, but you got to
Yeah.
try to win a little bit more than you lose.
Yeah. In your Google forum submission, you talked about this. Trying to think of it off the top of my head, something about the 1% kind of mentality or belief or thinking or something
Sure.
like that. What was it called?
So I have a motto. I run my practice by it. I try to live my life by it. It's called 1% a day for life. If you stick with me here, 1% a day
Yeah.
for life means if I start in January and I go to December at New Year's, I'm 365% better than I was at the beginning of the year.
Love it.
Now,
Yeah.
we're all human, last I checked. So you're going to have to give yourself some grace. Let's call it 50%. So half of the days of the year, you slack off and you aren't able to get to your goal of 1% a day. That's still over 150%. I think it's closer to 183, if I'm not mistaken. 183% better than you were at the start of the year. And it doesn't have to be the start of the year. It could start today and you'd still have over 100% by the end of the year. It's that simple. And I'm trying to make that not just my own life goal, but also my practices goal, my goal in jiu-jitsu, getting 1% better every day, no matter what.
You know how I love that. And it answers my final question perfectly. With that mindset, with that thinking, the 1% improvement thinking, how can someone apply that to improving their A game in jiu-jitsu?
100%. To give an example, if I got one of my white belts today to learn how to do a single leg X entry, where you go shin on shin, you tip them over, you go straight up to the single leg, and then you get that foot lock on. If I can get them to reproduce that tomorrow, that's like 30% jump for a white belt. Like that's exponential levels higher. Thinking about it that way instead of, oh, I'm a white belt today and I have to get all the way down here to the black belt level. That's why black belts are very rare. But if you're a white belt and you think, all right, what can I learn today and then tomorrow and then the next day? Well, guess what? A year or 2 years from now, you're going to be a blue belt. I think the statistic is 4 or 5% of the world's population is blue belts.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. And then even further reduced for purple and then reduced again for brown. So it becomes the law of attrition at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that, I like the percentages and the ratios of how jujitsu is dispersed and kind of like the demographics because it shows a lot of things. It shows one, it's a martial arts that works, and it's not it is not something that you are giving. It's something you earn when it comes to skills development and stuff like that. So I love it, man. Look, thank you so much for being here, dude.
I
This is
appreciate it, Joe.
and thanks for listening. It's always fun when I get guests on that also actually listen to the other episodes. Is there anything that I want to give you a chance? Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Did you get to hear? Oh, that's right. Emily's Dark's wife's a chiropractor too, right?
Yep.
Did y'all know it? We had an
didn't-
episode with her about like the importance of back health or something. Did you get to listen to
Yeah.
that?
I got a couple pieces of it, and that's when I was like, wait a second, is that Dark's wife? And then I saw
Yeah.
episode of Dark after that. I was like, oh, I gotta make sure I tell Joe about that.
Did you know her? Do you know her outside of
I
Dark?
met her. I met her through Dark. I didn't personally know her in
Okay,
school,
so
but
y'all
she
didn't go to
was
school together, or training, or anything
not
like
at the
that, right?
same
Okay.
time, but we were there at the. So the way it works, 11 quarters, all that fun stuff. You get
Yep.
through about halfway, then another group comes in, then another. So we were in separate quarters like that, but we were same school, same time.
That's crazy.
And yeah, man, it was a wild small world when I saw that Dark and you had connected and that she was on the podcast as well. I was like, wait a second, you mean to tell me these people? Oh my God. Like,
We've already talked about chiropractic and the
right?
importance of backup.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with, man?
The biggest thing I can say is keep showing up, keep working hard. Don't let the little things in life keep you from doing the things you chose to do. At the end of the day, this is a choice for all of us. We get to do what we set ourselves out to in this jiu-jitsu world. So if you want to have more fun, go out and have more fun. Don't stress yourself too much, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much, man, for
Thank you for
being
having me.
here. To the listeners, thanks for listening to Caffeinated Jiu Jitsu. If this episode has made you think of your own game, I know it has mine, and your own comfort zone, or a position that you've been maybe avoiding, share it with a training partner. And if you are watching, because you get the video on this, let me know what part of your game, or let us know, Colin and I both, what part of your game are you trying to expand on. Colin, if they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to engage with you?
On Facebook is going to be Colin Smith. That's my personal page. I also have a business page, Intact Health Centers, my chiropractic office. On Instagram, it's going to be Turtle King BJJ or the
Love it.
Horde BJJ. Both of those are my BJJ profiles. Intact Health Centers as well, and then YouTube as well is the Horde BJJ.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, man, for being here. It's been exciting. And until next episode, everyone, keep your passion brewing.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.